At least 21 people have reportedly died in Haiti due to new clashes between rival armed gangs. The World Health Organization declares on Saturday that the expanding monkeypox outbreak in more than 70 countries is an extraordinary situation that qualifies already as a global emergency. During his working visit to Egypt, Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov pointed out the responsibility of the West in worsening of the global food crisis. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Haiti, it was reported that at least 21 people died due to new clashes between rival armed gangs. According to humanitarian authorities, the clashes are taking place in the commune of Petite Rivière in the department of L'Artibonite, located in the center-north of the country, where the number of victims continues to increase due to the armed conflict between the Grand Griffe base and the gang led by Jean Dennis. The co-director of the Collective Defenders Plus, Anthony Mortimer, pointed out that several victims were dismembered with machetes or burnt alive. Mortimer added that the situation in the community is similar to the armed conflict in the Cité Soleil neighborhood, where at least 234 people died. Meanwhile, the United Nations urged the government of Haiti to guarantee the protection of the human rights that are being violated. The president of the Colombian parliament, Roy Barreras, informed that he reached an agreement with the police to support the Peace Commission's efforts. The Colombian legislator said he was able to share with diverse sectors of the country in order to move on with the reform projects announced by the president-elect Gustavo Petro. The first meeting was with the National Police, where he spoke with General Jorge Luis Vargas and decided to sign an interinstitutional agreement to support the actions of the Peace Commission. Another matter that was resolved between the parliamentarian and the police chief is the delivery of a report on the transformation of the National Police, which will serve as input for a debate on the creation of the Ministry of Peace, Security and Coexistence. On Friday, the U.S. State Department sanctioned the former president of Paraguay, Horacio Cartes, for accusations of corruption during his presidency. The decision was announced on Twitter by the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and announced almost simultaneously in Asunción by the ambassador of Washington in the country, Mark Osfield. The diplomat detailed that during his term, Cartes used the presidency to block an investigation into transnational crime involving his partner, whose identity he did not disclose in a maneuver he said was designed to mitigate the former president's political and legal risk. Cartes governed the South American country between 2013 and 2018 for the conservative Colorado Party. And on Friday, U.S. police authorities said 4 people were killed in a shooting at a state park in eastern Iowa. The victims were found in their tent early Friday at the Maquoketa Cave State Park campgrounds. Investigators have provided no motive for the attack but named the suspected gunman as 23-year-old Anthony Sherwin from Nebraska. Officers found the deceased body of the shooter west of the park, who appeared to have suffered a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Gun violence has taken more than 24,000 lives across the United States so far this year. Thousands of people gathered to parade through the streets of Berlin for the city's annual Pride celebration, also known as Christopher Street Day. The motto of the Christopher Street Day in 2022 is United in Love Against Hate, War and Discrimination. Around 1 million people took part in the CSD demonstration. The first Christopher Street Day in Berlin took place on June 30th, 1979. Gay Pride was the motto under which 450 protesters took to the streets of West Berlin. Christopher Street Day is an annual European LGBTIQ+ celebration and demonstration held in various cities across Europe for the rights of LGBTIQ+ people and against discrimination and exclusion. It is Germany's and Switzerland's counterpart to Gay Pride or Pride parades. Austria calls their Pride Parade Rainbow Parade. The most prominent CSD events are Berlin Pride, CSD Hamburg, CSD Cologne, Germany, and Zurich in Switzerland. Thousands of members of Hungary's LGBTIQ+ community and their supporters marched through Budapest on Saturday amid an increasingly hostile environment for sexual minorities led by the country's right-wing government. This year's 27th Budapest Pride March comes as Nationalist Prime Minister Viktor Orban is facing increasing legal pressure from the European Union to scrap contentious legislation passed by his party, which is seen as limiting the rights of LGBTIQ+ people. The EU has tried for a year to make Hungary change a law passed in June 2021 that bans content portraying or promoting homosexuality. The EU's executive has said the law discriminates against people on the basis of their sexual orientation and gender identity. Last week, the European Commission intensified its legal standoff with Hungary by taking the country to the bloc's highest court over the law, which banned the depiction of homosexuality or sex reassignment in media targeting minors under 18.
We are coming here because we feel that it's urgent and it's necessary, because we feel empathy and we feel solidarity to those who doesn't have equal rights and equal feelings in Hungary.
And this Sunday, July 24th, our news multi-platform TeleSUR is celebrating its 17th anniversary. 17 years of hard work and sacrifice to bring to your screen the stories and struggles of those left voiceless by the hegemonic narrative. On the occasion, the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro tweeted, "We celebrate the anniversary of TeleSUR, which from a social and supportive vision is a window for the people. My recognition for each of its workers for their commitment, effort, and dedication to bring the truth of Venezuela to the world. Congratulations." Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel also took to Twitter to congratulate TeleSUR on its 17th anniversary. The Cuban president wrote, "Congratulations TeleSUR from Cuba, who is and feels part of the channel founded by Chavez and Fidel. We embrace them with joy and confidence that they will continue to be the voice and face of our Latin America." And we'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. The World Health Organization said on Saturday that the expanding monkeypox outbreak in more than 70 countries is an extraordinary situation that now qualifies as a global emergency. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus made the decision to issue the declaration despite a lack of consensus among experts serving on the UN Health Agency's Emergency Committee. It was the first time the chief of the UN Health Agency has taken such an action. Global emergency is WHO's highest level of alert, but the designation does not necessarily mean a disease is particularly transmissible or lethal. WHO's emergency chief, Dr. Michael Ryan, said the Director General made the decision to put monkeypox in that category to ensure the global community takes the current outbreak seriously. Declaring a global emergency means the monkeypox outbreak is an extraordinary event that could spill over into more countries and requires a coordinated global response. It could also spur foreign investment in treating the once rare disease and worsen the scramble for scarce vaccines.
WHO's assessment is that the risk of monkeypox is moderate globally and in all regions, except in the European region, where we assess the risk is high. There is also a clear risk of further international spread, although the risk of interference with international traffic remains low for the moment. So in short, we have an outbreak that has spread around the world rapidly through new modes of transmission about which we understand too little and which meets the criteria in the international health regulations. For all of these reasons, I have decided that the global monkeypox outbreak represents a public health emergency of international concern.
In the Philippines, a rising number of dengue fever cases is posing a grave challenge to health officials who fear a widespread public health crisis. A total of 65,109 dengue infections, including 274 deaths from the mosquito-borne virus, were recorded between January 1st and July 2nd this year, an 83% increase over the same period last year. The country's Department of Health has released funds to help combat the outbreak and is urging residents to take preventive measures to stem the spread of the disease. In Barangay Talayan in Quezon City, the local health committee has organized insecticide spraying in the district 2 or 3 times a day in a bid to eradicate mosquitoes. The committee is also organizing dengue awareness campaigns in the district, going door to door to alert people to the dangers of mosquito bites that can transmit the dengue virus. In India, more than 21,000 new cases of COVID-19 were reported in the last 24 hours. According to data from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the number of active cases of COVID-19 in the country reached 43,868,476 on Saturday. This after a total of 21,411 new infections were registered in the last day. Meanwhile, the number of deaths caused by the infection reached 525,997 as another 67 patients succumbed to the contagious disease this Friday. The authorities informed that the number of people recovered from the disease increased to 43,192,379. To date, over 2.1 billion doses of vaccines against COVID-19 have been administered in the country. In Mali, the military board confirmed a terrorist attack against the largest military base in the country. Authorities reported that at least 7 people were killed and 8 others were arrested during the actions to repel the attack. They pointed out that the present attack against the Kati garrison was executed through a coordinated series of insurgent attacks since last Thursday. In this context, officials highlighted that the extremist attacks have been mainly in the north of the nation, but recently the groups have started to act in the center of the country. The German charity Sea-Watch carried out 4 operations in less than 24 hours, rescuing 428 migrants and refugees trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea from northern Africa to Europe on an overcrowded rickety boats. The migrants were rescued by the crew of Sea-Watch 3, and among those taken on board were a pregnant woman and a man with severe burns. Sea-Watch 3 is urgently asking for a safe port as the ship is unable to support so many people on board. According to the United Nations Agency for Refugees, 782 migrants and refugees have arrived in Italy by sea as of July 17, mostly from Bangladesh, Egypt, Tunisia, and Afghanistan. More than 1,200 people are reported to have died this year attempting to cross the Mediterranean to reach Europe. And more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In Egypt, within the framework of his tour in Africa, the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov pointed out the responsibility of the West in the worsening of the global food crisis. During a joint press conference with his Egyptian counterpart, Sameh Shoukry, the Russian diplomat assured that the Western countries aggravated the world food crisis by imposing sanctions against Russia affecting its agricultural exports. He recalled that Moscow did not hinder the departure of cargo ships from the Ukrainian ports, but for several months he had created 2 humanitarian corridors in the Black Sea to ensure the safe passage. He pointed out that the Western countries should remove the obstacles they created to solve the situation, while recalling that Kiev has been rejecting the possibility of solving the conflict through diplomatic channels. Thousands attended Sunday funerals for 2 Palestinian men killed by Israeli soldiers during overnight operations in the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry on Sunday said Mohammad Azizi, 25, was killed by a bullet to the chest, while Abdul Rahman Jamal Suleiman Saab, 28, was shot in the head. Palestinian news agency Wafa said Israeli forces stormed Al Yasmina neighborhood in the old city of Nablus after midnight and cordoned off a house before embarking on bombing the house with explosives and gunfire, killing 2 Palestinians. According to the Palestinian Red Crescent, at least 12 others were wounded, including 1 in serious condition. More than 60 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces since the start of the year, according to an official Palestinian tally. On Saturday, Pakistani officials reported that the death toll from more than 5 weeks of heavy rains and floods reached 304. Since mid-June, monsoon rains have overflowed rivers and damaged roads and bridges, as well as disrupted traffic. Nearly 9,000 homes were destroyed or damaged. Particularly hard hit was the volatile southwestern province of Balochistan, where 99 people died in rain-related incidents. Another 70 people died in the southern province of Sindh. There were also 61 deaths in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province and 60 in the eastern province of Punjab. Every year, much of Pakistan suffers from monsoon-related incidents. The government's response has been strongly criticized. The season runs from July to September. The rains are essential for crop irrigation and for water reserve in the country. In Europe, the heat wave that has been sweeping across the continent has claimed over 2,000 lives while fueling wildfires across the territory. Europe has been reeling from the effects of a prolonged heat wave responsible for a series of ferocious wildfires and escalating record-breaking high temperatures. The Italian government on Friday issued an alert for extremely high temperatures in its 16 cities. Meanwhile, the firefighting authorities of the country said they have dealt with a total of 32,921 wildfires from June 15th to July 21st. In reaction to the extreme effects of the current heat waves, the WHO has issued a guidance for national and local authorities to save lives and strengthen the resilience of communities and people to cope during extreme heat. In Greece, hundreds of tourists and residents were evacuated from a resort on the island of Lesbos because of a wildfire that also destroyed homes in the coastal village of Batera. The fires raised clouds of smoke as flames burned just meters from homes, forcing people to flee as others tried to protect their homes. Greece was facing the first day of a heat wave on Saturday that is expected to last for 10 days. Temperatures could reach 42 degrees Celsius in some regions. Police reported that 450 people have been evacuated from 2 hotels and 92 houses in Batera. The Greek Coast Guard earlier said they had evacuated 9 people, including 5 foreigners, from a beach in Batera. In the United States, the water level of Utah's iconic landmark, the Great Salt Lake, has dropped to its all-time low. The Great Salt Lake is the largest saltwater lake in the Western Hemisphere and the 8th largest terminal lake in the world. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, water levels in the lake are expected to continue falling this fall and winter, which could seriously affect the natural environment and a relevant industry chain worth $1.3 billion. Meanwhile, the area of the lake has shrunk from a peak of about 7,769 square kilometers in the 1980s to about 2,460 square kilometers now. Experts say the falling of water levels was because of climate change and human activity. And TeleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on screen are in place since July 1st, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other faraway nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media narrative and unfaithfulness to our audience. And like this, we have come to the end of this news program. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.